Our Board of Trustees meeting for July 15th, 2024, 7 p.m. Ms. Sharon Smith, could you please call the roll?
Bartholomew?
Here.
Edwards?
Here.
Fowler?
Yes.
Kerr?
Here.
Parker? Absent. Rosso? Poznanski?
Here. Okay, let us stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, can we have an approval of agenda?
I had one addition to make, to add new business H, paid parking.
And I'd like to make a switch around on the new business, B and C. On the new business, village clerk resignation, AT&T phone bills, up to A and B, and remove the hammer and everything else down. Underneath.
I'm sorry, you're going to need to hold up.
All right.
Ms. Sharon's got to keep track of it too
sorry.
here. So you want to first,
I'd like to move B and C on a new business, up to unfinished business. First two on the topic, A and B.
they are not unfinished, however.
Correct, they are not, but.
They're new.
We have talked about it, so I'd like to get it out the way, just get it up there. Instead of it being where it's at on the agenda.
Well, my argument would be they are not unfinished business,
Right.
they are new.
New business.
The resignation is a new item, and these bills that I'm going to speak about,
If that's
It
the
is a new
case-
item.
If that's the case, then move Sisson Park down.
well, that one is there,
Move
that,
them up in front of.
System Park is there for a reason. We're gonna start with
I'm just-
some
you
good
asked-
news.
You asked for any additions and.
Okay.
and
Well,
so I'm-
Then you go ahead and make your motion, or you
Make
go
a
ahead
motion
and
that we
throw it out
move-
there.
B and C up in front of Sisson Park, move Sisson Park down to C
A second.
under new business.
Do we have a motion?
I made a
He
motion.
made the motion, I seconded it.
With both the changes?
Yeah.
Okay. Motion by Fowler, support by Rousseau. Do we have all in favor?
Aye.
Do we have any opposed? Okay, we have our agenda. Moving into our approval of the minutes, you will notice we do not have minutes for our last official board meeting. At that point in time, Clerk Chapp had not finished them and then took her medical leave, and they have not been done yet, so we will get them done. So for the moment, we have our special meeting for June 25th, 7 p.m. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes for the special meeting, June 25th.
Support.
Okay, so we have motion by Care, support by Fowler, all in favor? Aye.
I'll make a
None
motion to
opposed.
approve the special meeting minutes for June 27th.
For 6:15, 7, and 7:15, or do you want to
Do
do
we
them
have
all?
to do them individually? For
Preference?
6:15, 7, and 7:15.
Okay, motion by Care for all of the meetings on June 27th,
Support.
support by Bartholomew. Is there any discussion on any of them? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? There's none opposed. Okay, moving into our bills, we have our bill amounts for $467,202.86, and our second for $30,545.07.
Make a motion to approve the bills as shown. Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Edwards, support by Bartholomew. Do we have any discussion?
I have a question. So typically the clerk is part of the checks and balance system. How are we managing them currently?
At this point, I've stepped in. It is between Caroline and myself.
Thank you.
Okay, could you please call the roll, Sharon?
Rosso,
Yes.
Care,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Edwards,
Yes.
Bartholomew,
Yes.
Poznanski,
Yes. Okay, moving on to our special presentations, we have the DDA with us. Fire up our screen here, hand over the floor. The presentation is in our packet so that you do not have to try and see it behind you, printed in beautiful color.
Okay, Danielle Lee with the Romeo DDA. So we've had our joint meeting with the village board and the DDA board to go over our payment in lieu of parking ordinance and also just kind of parking downtown in general. We were asked to do a presentation for you with some of the things that we had discussed from that meeting, and some solutions to parking. So this is what this is. What we talked about as far as goals for downtown was we wanted to have wayfinding to identify all public parking, generate revenue to pay for maintenance of the parking lots, allow businesses ability to pay in lieu of parking so they can open, open prime parking spots to customers that are currently being taken up all day, and then provide ideal parking for employees and business owners. So far, some possible solutions are to add signage to identify the public parking. We have ordered banners, they're actually in, working with DPW as far as getting those up in the next couple weeks or so. So those will start to identify some of the public parking that maybe isn't as obvious, over on North Bailey, things like that. We also talked about implementing paid parking in prime locations within the DDA on Main Street and around Village Park. We talked about setting the pilot fee to $100 or less, and discussed possible employee parking options within local churches or businesses.
Is that it?
So the public parking banners were just the first step. It's a quick, economical way to show where public parking is, and we can move them, so they're not, cemented into the ground, they're easy to move around. And then wayfinding in prime locations downtown would kind of be the next step. That would include points of interest like the village park, village police, village office. Those would be more permanent type signs. Some options for paid parking. Obviously, we all know about physical meters. I'm sure some of you have seen kiosks. And then there's also an app-based solution. One of the app-based solutions that we looked into is P123 by Parking Box. This is an economic solution. It's a sustainable source of income. It's quick setup and immediate use. We have low visibility impact to downtown streetscape, so we don't have the actual physical meters lining downtown. And it's small contributions from many, as well as offers flexible pricing and holiday options. Additionally, some of the capabilities are rate flexibility. So, for example, we might say your first half an hour is free, and after that, it's a certain rate. We may say during a holiday time, there is no, it's a free parking. We can say that if you have a handicap plate, it's free parking. So there's a lot of flexibility with that, and there's flexibility with changing the rate based on time of year or time of day. We can apply the discounts for specific customers. The police have online access for parking enforcement. So it will tell them when somebody is getting close to or has gone past their paid parking limit. It's cashless and there's no download that's required. Some projected revenue, if we had 100 daily parkers for $3 for 365 days a year, we could generate $109,500 for the village. The cost for this particular app that I was looking into is $495 to start up, and then there's a software fee. I want to note there are multiple app solutions, and I think, and we talked about in our subcommittee, we would want to research a number of them and see which one makes the most sense, but they all have these capabilities. This is just one that we started looking into. Some paid parking communities, I found Grand Haven has been talking about paid parking since 2021. They have finally gotten approval to move forward with that for 2025, and they're projecting their revenue is over $1 million. Now, they are on the water, so they have a lot of summer influx, but it's just an example of a community that is moving toward this. St. Joseph just approved it in June of 2024, and they have projected revenue of over $2 million. Other communities around us, Port Huron, Royal Oak, Ferndale, Mount Clemens, Rochester, there's many communities around us that have paid parking. Next steps that we talked about was to make a resolution to set the pilot fee to 100 or less, whatever you guys decide, and approve paid parking on Main Street and Village Park, or we can add more or take them away as we see it's beneficial. The DDA can set up the app, we can help manage the discounts, all of those things, and then the collected funds can be transferred to a village account that is for parking maintenance. So, that is everything I have on this. One other thing, I'm sorry, I meant to mention, possible solutions we talked about that was important, is that we need to review our parking requirement ordinance. So if that's sending it to planning or whatever that is, there's some of it that's quite a bit outdated, so that's another step that would help with this. I'm open to any questions. Nothing?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Danielle.
Okay, thank you, Danielle. Correspondence, we did not have any. Moving into our public comment. Now is the time to speak if you would like. 3 minutes at the podium. You may speak on anything you'd like. No? Nobody? Okay. We'll consider public comment closed. Moving into our officer reports. Chief, would you mind starting us off tonight?
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Just some quick updates on some of the ongoings at the PD, June and early July. Recently, the interior surveillance cameras were replaced in the PD building. These cameras have the capability of integrating with the middle school camera system, and we intend on doing that so that dispatch will have access. There may be at some point an introduction to put cameras at some of the community infrastructure, like the wastewater treatment, the community well. If that is something that the village and you folks move forward with, those cameras would also be able to be integrated into dispatch on a monitor so that dispatch would be able to look at them all the time. All the computers at the PUD were replaced. Actually, that project is ongoing. Should be completed by tomorrow. The computer systems that were in existence there when I took over are 12 years old. Just so you know, it's kind of standard recommendation in the IT community to look at replacement of, or at least upgrade of computer systems at about the 3-year point. These were 12-year-old systems. had 4 gig hard drives that wouldn't even operate the current operating system that required 6. So those systems should be done being replaced by tomorrow. They're 32 gigs, so they should last some time. The business phones were over 30 years old. This is a police department and government building that had no ability to put caller ID on the phone systems. They didn't record, which is somewhat unheard of in 2024. The new systems, the new phones that have been put in and are currently operational have caller ID, voicemail for each of the officers, and record all incoming and outgoing calls. All the computers were backed up internally, which means they had one single point of failure in the computers. The company that's replacing the computers installed a server as an additional backup method. That server has an audit trail, and it also captures the recordings on the business lines, the ingoing and outgoing calls, for a set period of time, whatever we decide. That system is also backed up in the cloud. All firearms qualifications were brought up to date. The officers were a bit out of date. The state mandated active violence training was accomplished by every officer last month. An audit of the evidence room will begin on Wednesday, and that will probably be a several weeks long process. And lastly, a 2023 case was discovered. It was nearly two years old, in which $12,000 cash was located inside of the property room. We went through our due diligence to locate the owner of that $12,000. The final certified letter was returned undeliverable, so that cash will become the property of the Village of Romeo and will be turned over to the treasurer this week for deposit. That's it. Any questions?
I didn't get my letter. I was looking for it.
You didn't get the letter?
God, you're really on this.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks.
Yes, when that item was brought up in conversation just from the crew, Chief said, "I'm sorry, what did you just say?" He's like, "We need to go find that right now. Why is that just sitting in there?" Okay, our planning commission here is not here. Trustees, Nolan?
No, I'm all set.
Okay, go this way.
All
Edwards?
set.
Rousseau?
We had a tree board meeting, it went really well. We were hoping to get the new ordinance on the agenda, but we just met Thursday night, so it wasn't quite in time for this one, but it'll be for next month. And then they, obviously they're working diligently on the roads, and the sidewalks that they're taking out and replacing look significantly different than what they were prior. So I did meet with Jerry, and they were not ADA compliant in the past. So that's what I'm going to mention too, how significant the slope is, and we are right at the exact.
Not only were they not, and then standards have changed over time, so anything you've seen, so in the past, just this quad last year, we had a corner that had been done in 22, and we still did it in 23 because standards had already changed that fast, so, yeah.
Yeah, so just for everybody to be careful if you're on the sidewalks and you see new ones, because the slope is fine, it is what it should be, but it is different than what we're all used to. It is going downhill a little bit more quicker than.
And then they add a bit of a curve in order to get that drop with the angle. So.
Yeah, so that's going on, that's it.
Okay. Fowler? No? Care?
Nathan and I attended the joint DDA subcommittee group. It was really productive. There should be a lot more intergroup conversation like that. But Danielle already hit on a lot of it, and we'll probably talk about it more tonight anyway, so I'll spare all the details. That's it.
Okay. And I'm sure everybody's missing our presentations from GSOPs. They took a month off here. They're working and gathering more information and still hitting their fundraising hard. So they just wanted to say they are still relevant. They're just not here tonight. The treasurer's report, our investments are in here with your bills. No clerk report tonight, obviously. Hold on, let me find my papers. There. Okay. Tried to keep my report a little shorter. There is a lot going on, obviously trying to keep track of. Just try to hit some of the higher points, starting off with a win for the community. The SEMCOG grant that I applied for, we won. So didn't win all of it, but so many people put in, they had to reduce the amounts for everybody. So $40,000. This is a matching grant, so we will be awarded $32,740 in federal funding. And the village, should it choose so, will match with $7,260. This is put in for a planning assistance program grant, in which we put in for assistance regarding our asset inventory and capital improvement planning. This is something I brought up to the Planning Commission, been speaking about, went to the Michigan Infrastructure Council Asset Management course. If any of you would like to do that, they are signing up right now, and I can put your name in, they will contact you. So getting that moving along there with this grant will give us extra. We'll be able to do a deeper dive into what we need. Just a point on our village park. We are having irrigation issues. I reached out by email to Ruth Heidelbrecht, and I asked for plans of work done regarding the irrigation system. I am hopeful that I'll be able to connect with the contractor that did the irrigation work soon, so that we can understand the issues. I guess he has some possible solutions, so just waiting to connect with them.
What's the irrigation issues?
I don't know. It doesn't work, I can tell you that.
You got puddled water?
No, it won't turn on. Look, when you turn it on, there's a leak. So there's something in the system. There is a hole, there is a knot cap. It's just not
Water
pressured,
bubbling up
yeah.
out of the ground?
So, to be honest, that's kind of on my back burner at the moment. So trying to keep track of it, but it's just not at the forefront.
So we're not turning it on at all?
No,
Perfect.
and thankfully we've had a lot of rain. I mean, the grass looks great,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
In the world of IT, I continue to get some pushback from our current IT contractor. I've looked over the contract. We currently have a contract with SYO for $444 a month. However, in now doing the bills and receiving the invoices, there are additional charges not included in the monthly coverage that actually runs the village on average a total of $1,000 a month. So that includes the $444. So it's about $1,000 total. I've asked the company that's working at the police department, IT, CNM, is that correct? For a cost analysis of what they could offer the village. I've asked them, look around, throw some numbers at me, give me a la carte, if all or nothing or pieces. I've looked over the contract that we have with our current operator. I believe it's a 90-day notification, and we are able to step out. As mentioned last month, although we might not be thrilled with the service the village is receiving at the moment, I would not suggest ending that contract until we have an acceptable next step arranged. If the village, if we so choose, this board chooses, I don't know your comfort with just stepping right into with this current contractor or bidding it out again, but continuing to get pushback from our own information that I've asked for and will not be given to me so that we can properly set up the police computers is infuriating, to say the least.
Are the extra charges warranted, or are they additional
They are,
services?
what they are is so, the 444 apparently is for, hey, my computer won't turn on today, or hey, I have a question, how do I get into this? The other things are for, so there's a charge of $161, and that's just to pay for or hold for our emails. I'm not very techy, so I can't tell you all the things. I wrote it down on an email trying to understand. One of them, there's like a $30 thing that's to monitor the backup system. They're all differing amounts that, in average, every month, it's about actually $1,000 contract.
Since we've signed that contract?
Yeah. So those items so essentially we're paying them a monthly fee to monitor the things that we still pay them to take care of. It's not a altogether item, now that I'm understanding the IT world better. To go in a little deeper with the police, I did execute emergency purchase on some of the items that we did do. Chief did take the time to do have 4 different companies come in so that we could at least see. A couple of them just didn't seem to grasp or have the understanding that was needed in order to have the safety of a police department, having encrypted items. It's not just a Ring doorbell system. They now have their own internet. Before, half of their problem was they were trying to take from village internet, and so they would just get shoddy service. Chief would be on a Zoom call and it would just be dropped. Combined with that is that there was no firewall. When we were hacked, the village took care to take care of the village hall, and I believe the DPW, but not the police department. So the police department has not been, had their malware or whatever you call those things updated till as of recent. There hasn't been a firewall, and like Chief had said, all of their information was stored on that computer you were sitting at. That 12-year-old computer, if it died, that information is gone forever. Or if someone sat down at that computer and deleted something, we didn't know, and we didn't know the last user. The tracking mechanisms right there. More importantly, the precipice to getting all the new computers was we couldn't even put in these cameras because the software would have crashed our current computers. So in order to even get what we needed, we had to back up a few steps and do other items. Within all of that, it was found that there was no backup to the system. So at the end of the night in the village, everything is backed up to a cloud. That is not done at the police department. So I do not have for you tonight a total. You did see in your bills, there's a deposit. It was a $7,000 and like $7,500. That's the work to date. The initial quote was about $11,000, but as we're finding these other items, I can't not approve getting our systems backed up and being safe. Haven't done everything. We'll talk about that later. I only chose to do the things that had to happen in order for them to do their jobs and also do them more efficiently. We were losing money having them sit at a computer while it boots up for 15 minutes. 15 minutes a day for a week. We just paid for how many hours for them to sit at a computer and wait? So I just felt that those few things constituted emergency. And we'll see that the final, hopefully, next month with the totals. Clerk duties that have been being attended to. Paid the past due invoices for the Michigan Municipal League job posting. That was a job posting for the part-time position in the village office. They had not been paid. I canceled the cemetery conference and hotel for Miss Trapp, and two of the board members. Mitchell, our current cemetery supervisor, he is still going. It just seems pertinent for him to go at the moment, nobody else. That office has taken care of the cemetery lot sales as they come in the door for the lottery. I have been fielding FOIAs. There's been a couple, nothing too deep, thankfully. Just got a marijuana renewal today, so I'm going to start figuring that one out. And also thinking marijuana was the clerk's responsibility as it was not a voting member. So I'm going to ask Caroline to take the lead on that, as she is also not a voting member. She had been involved with it with the clerk. There are items and verbiage within that ordinance that the treasurer does assist with. So when she comes back tomorrow, she's been out on vacation since last Thursday with Miss Trapp. So when she comes back tomorrow, I will ask her if she will take the lead on anything marijuana. I'm currently reviewing a contract for the renewal of our postage machine in the office. It's expired. Just want to do my due diligence, look it over, because that is a 60-month, 5-year contract. Gone up a few bucks, I think we went from like 175 to 190 something, so little increase there, but appropriate. I've taken the active role now in regards to our police grievance, as we are still working through that with the Mr. Priest grievance, and still working at fully understanding and receiving documentation regarding Earmark contract and A&T contracts. In regards to the cemetery, I have a letter here. Their chair, Debbie Martone, gracefully provided a letter since the clerk was not here to update regarding cemetery. She writes, "In the absence of a clerk, I would like to submit the following cemetery update for the village council. The cemetery board discussed at our last meeting identifying the duties of the sexton and maintenance supervisors. We will be implementing a more detailed record of the duties and expectations of all persons affiliated with the cemetery, including the clerk, board members, and chairperson as written by village law and cemetery bylaws. The board also formally began the process of adding at least one columbaria to the cemetery. We will be visiting the cemetery individually to consider possible placements for a columbarium site. Columbarium styles and pricings have been collected from monument companies with which to consider in upcoming meetings. Mitchell Foster, cemetery maintenance supervisor, brought to the board's attention that there has been an increase in people driving at fast speeds in the cemetery, especially on North End roads. People attending events at the ball fields also appear to be using those roads for parking, which is not permitted. I met with Mitchell Foster and Mr. King, surveyor, regarding an area with additional cemetery lots that have not been pinned or sold in the 12th edition. Mitchell has been measuring and pinning 3 rows of possibly 25 lots per row. Once these are completed, the board will discuss how these lots will be made available for purchase. I had a discussion with village attorney Mark Clark about creating a guideline for handling families whose ancestors purchased cemetery lots, but certificates are either non-existent, lots were not included in wills or trusts, and other extenuating circumstances related to such issues that prohibit lots to remain unused. There are no agenda items for our July 17th, 2024 meeting. On behalf of the Cemetery Board, I would also like to thank Mitchell Foster for his added assistance with cemetery issues at this time and his unwavering dedication and professionalism. Respectfully submitted, Debbie Martone, Chair of the Village of Romeo Cemetery Board. I would agree, Mitchell has been great help. Cemetery is not something I have delved into at my time, and when people come in, he is the one that is answering the questions right now. Big help. Would like to give an update regarding our DDA. I would like to say welcome to Christina Shepard-Decius, I don't know how to say it, Decius, as the interim DDA director for the next few months. She has been contracted to not only fulfill in as an interim director, but also tasked with the search for a permanent director. I will be meeting with her this week. And then I have an update for our EV tip. Carmen planned to be here tonight, but circumstances changed, and she gave me a report to read. Over the last 2 months, the team from the Economic Growth Institute has continued regular engagement and communication with the Village of Romeo leadership, project strategy team, and local stakeholders for information sharing to advance strategic planning. Since our last presentation to the Village Council and residents on May 20th, 2024, EGI has participated in the Romeo Ford Plant Task Force meeting on May 22nd, 2024, and conducted regular bi-weekly meetings with the state-funded Office of Future Mobility and Electrification and Office of Labor and Economic Opportunity to share EV tip updates and discuss strategies. Since May 20th, the EGI team has facilitated the development of the Village of Romeo strategic plan in partnership with the village leadership and community stakeholders. A final project selection meeting with the strategy team was held on May 9th. The strategic plan discussed the alignment of subject projects with the overall project goals. EGI's current activities involve determining the feasibility of 2 projects, the Central Business District Wayfinding and Signage Project, and the Central Business District Sidewalk Repair and Tree Replacement Project. The EGI team is currently in the project scoping phase, meeting with ecosystem resources such as the Macomb Planning and Economic Development Team on June 17th and the Michigan Downtown Association leadership on July 12th, in order to move forward understanding the feasibility of these projects. Additionally, we are working to identify potential project consultants and will continue to conduct regular project meetings to ensure successful implementation with a target completion date of September 2024. that is it for my report for this month. We touched everybody, right? Okay, committee reports. Our Bruce Sewer, Justin and myself met. I did pass on to Matt the paperwork that they gave us. Basically, they just passed on what their ask was. Our plan was for our subcommittee to meet internally to go over them. We have not met, so that's where that one's at. Ethics subcommittee, we have not met, touched base since then. We can try if you would like. A little busy, but we can still fit it in.
Yeah.
So you guys let me know. Moving into unfinished business, we have our Aramark contract update. As you can see in this email, we do unfortunately, it does look like we have just under $20,000 still outstanding with Aramark. I continue to try and communicate with them. It has been 3 weeks of non-communication. I have asked them, they sent me this email, and I asked them for justification. They said, well, we've already given you the contracts and the, what was the word? The collections notice. I said, okay, well, even in there, the collection notice, some of those numbers don't actually match these numbers that they just sent me, to a differing amount of almost $4,000 to the pot, to their advantage. So I've asked them, I've taken it all apart, been very clear, asked them to verify what is the change, what is the difference in the amounts, give all the supporting documentation, to no answer. Like I said, a couple emails, a phone call, voicemail. I'm not getting anywhere, so at this point, until we do hear back or actually get any supporting documentation, the village will not be paying this amount of money. I will keep you updated, and I will continue to try and contact them.
Will they continue to apply a late fee? Since they haven't got-
I can't answer that because I haven't spoken with them.
Mr. Clark?
Well, they may, excuse me, they may, I don't know if late fees are included in their contract, usually they are, but whether they're entitled to them is a different issue. If information has been requested and it's not been forthcoming, I would oppose any payment of late fees based on the non-responsiveness of the vendor.
I can't answer it.
That's good. Is that something that we want to put that out there to them, or it's just legally known that since they haven't responded to our president's request, they get nothing else until they respond to it?
Well, I think right now you do have choices. One is to do nothing, one is to respond and say, I know I've asked you for this before, but this time I mean it, which means they probably won't respond either. And so I think right now, probably the most practical and best way to get their attention is not pay them. And the danger, the downside, I don't want to make that sound like that, that's just easy and non-eventful. They may lose patience at their end and just start suit against the village. Well, you know, if they do, they do. I don't encourage you to pay something that you can't verify for what you're paying and how much it actually is.
Well, I guess, yes, I'm not for paying if they haven't given her any clarification of what we owe. As far as nailing them down, pretty much like you said, the communication part between the two parties, keep that line open.
Yes, I am of the opinion that the squeaky wheel will eventually get some attention. So every week on Monday, I send them another email. It's been another week.
Good.
Have I heard from you yet?
And it's a paper trail too.
That's,
so-
Yes.
that's all I'm asking.
Yeah.
That's good. Thanks.
Okay, moving into, I separated out these two. I know we've talked about them before in conjunction, but I separated them out in order for us to make decisions and not feel that it was a decision that had to be done in conjunction. We have, starting off with our proposed Headley rollback. We did change the language a little bit. It was, in taking it to our accountants, it was a bit redundant. So we took a bottom sentence out so that it was a little clearer, I suppose you could say. I have in here all the information we've seen before. Your explanation from Plant Moran, can read it for us, that assuming taxable value increase of 5% in fiscal year 2025, 3.5% in 2026, and 3.5% in 2027, the estimated increase in property tax revenue for the general fund would be approximately $480,000. And for fiscal year 2026, an approximately $495,000 in fiscal year 27, should the Headley override be approved. The increase on the average residential taxable property tax bill would be approximately $235 in fiscal year 2026. I do have an updated number. These, in April, the final, I don't even know how to say it because the final tax information wasn't in yet, but it is now. And so first capture in 2026 would be $510,000. So it is a bit more than the initial. Keep in mind, this proposal is specifically aimed to address our fire contract.
The only thing, I guess, before we get too far ahead, I lose where I'm at here. The Headley override ballot language, the last sentence there. If I'm a voter and I don't happen to have my mind in all the village business and things like that, it sounds like you're talking about the small portion of the millage may also be distributed to the Village of Romeo Downtown Development Authority. And all that sounds very, we know all what that's all about, but I don't think that my neighbor knows what that's about necessarily. So I guess I would just like to clarify maybe a little language there, instead of saying maybe a small portion, just say a small portion within the Downtown Development Authority area. Just to kind of clarify that, so that they can get a feeling of that. They know they're not in the and I don't even want to use the term DDA. I want to spell it out so that they understand it's a Downtown Development Authority. So if you're not in that, you're not paying any money towards that. That's the only kind of a clarification I would make for the average voter.
So you would want to add what verbiage exactly?
Well, I guess something like, as required by law, a small portion within the Downtown Development Authority portion of the millage may also be distributed to the Village Romeo within the Downtown Development Authority area. I guess I'm not sure how to word it. Huh?
Boundaries?
Boundaries, that's a good way to put it, maybe. Downtown development boundaries.
So just add boundaries to the end, or still put it in?
No, a small portion
Up
of the
there.
village may also, a small portion of the downtown development boundaries, or how am I gonna put that? Small portion of the village may also be distributed to the, maybe just put it at the end, yeah, maybe. That might be the best place to do it. I just thought it would be, somehow the average resident would wanna be a little more clear on where this is. And why are they paying towards it when they're not?
Mr. Clark, would you see any reason to not add that here, that it would make it any
Any clearer?
unclear or incorrect?
No, my suggestion would be in the next to the last line, a small portion of the millage to add levied in the area of the Downtown Development Authority may also be distributed to the Village of Romeo Downtown Development Authority.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Did you have that recorded?
Well, I've got it written on my piece of paper.
Okay, good, because we'll need that later. Does that suffice?
Yes, that certainly does.
And then in that blank, there is the $510,000 at that lower section. I was just gonna go through, if you go to the page that says budget with Headley rollback. I did a few calculations just to show, because this will affect the next, should we choose or not choose, then to go with the next, the mills also. So for the fire department, you see currently this year we had $550,000. That was our contract. This year coming up, it is $780,000. That is a difference of $230,000. The following year in 25-26, it continues to go up by $46,800. And then in the following year of 26-27, it goes up $49,608. So in those 3 years, that is an additional $326, $326 and $408. That is where this Headley rollback, the intention
Right.
is to come up with this money. I guess I should have completely added that all together, because it's not just 326, it's 230 plus the 46, and then, do you know what I did not quite do that all correctly, that's why I'm not the accountant. But you get my intention there, is that, there is nowhere else in the budget for that amount of money to come from. So our hope is that the people see that, recognize that, and would like to keep their fire contract paid.
Well, the people I had talked to were, that was, I told them about the problem that there was there with negotiations. And they basically shrugged their shoulders and said, look, we gotta have it. So, kinda do what you gotta do.
Yeah. And I appreciate that this is a ballot question and not a board question, answer here, that we can do our due diligence, we came up with a solution and we offered it to the people. And now should we choose to put it in their hands, it's their decision,
Yep.
not ours. So, if the board is comfortable and this is a decision to put this on the ballot, could I please have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve this ballot language as presented and as changes were made. I guess is maybe a better way to put it.
Second?
And to have it on the
to-
November ballot?
Have it on the ballot, yes.
Okay.
Which date?
It would be November.
November 5th?
Yeah, I need to figure out also now how to get ballot language submitted.
Because you do have to have it, I think
Yes.
it's in
I
August.
have it, it's August 13th, I have my note, yeah. There's other clerks around, people are helpful, it's
Yes,
not
they
the end of the world, we will figure it out. So we have a motion by Edwards, support by Bartholomew. Do we have any further discussion?
Can we just have Mark reread that last sentence again, if you don't
Sure,
mind?
no, I do not mind at all. So in the next, to the last, in fact, let's just take the sentence in its entirety. As required by law, a small portion of the millage, and then I would recommend inserting, levied in the area of the Downtown Development Authority may also be distributed to the Village of Romeo Downtown Development Authority. Now, I don't want to throw a wrinkle in it, but as long as you're, have this in a motion and up for discussion, is the DDA is allowed, because the village council has granted it, the ability to levy, actually the village levies at 2 mills in the area of the DDA. I believe that's also been rolled back by Headley, and I don't think this ballot language in and of itself will roll back the Headley for the DDA millage. So they're still gonna run on parallel tracks. And I don't know what the Headley rollback is for the DDA now, I think
I
it's
feel like they're at
probably
1.6, it's somewhere in there,
Yeah.
1.67 or,
So you could also consider that separately, but that language is in there because you want to Mr. Edwards's point, you want to explain more or provide more information rather than less, so people know what they're voting on. So this doesn't roll back the Headley for the DDA, but some of that increased millage may, because of the way the DDA law works and the ordinance the village has, the DDA may be the recipient of it. And you'll notice it says may. You're not saying that it will, but you just want to allow for it. And I think that's appropriate.
okay. Do we have any more discussion? Sharon, if you could call the roll.
Rosso,
Yes.
Bartholomew,
Yes.
Fowler,
No.
Edwards,
Yes.
Care,
Yes.
Poznanski,
Yes. Okay, we had prepared street millage ballot language also. This would be an additional 2 mills. This would bring our current road mills up to 3.5. Again, same information we've seen before. I will read the explanation here. For the road mills, assuming a taxable value increase of 5% in fiscal year 2025, 3.5% in 2026, and 3.5% in 2027. The estimated increase in property tax revenue for the municipal street fund millage rate increase from 1.5 mils to 3.5 mils would be approximately $450,000 for fiscal year 2026, and approximately $465,000 in fiscal year 2027. The increase on the average residential taxable property tax bill would be approximately $200 in fiscal year 2026. The intention with the consideration here was our roads. To date, we are at, I'm just gonna, 5 million, 6 million, and we aren't done yet, so I'm gonna take a big guess. In the last portion, the southwest quadrant is very large. I'm gonna say the total complete is gonna be anywhere from 10 to 12. What we have is a road millage that doesn't support maintaining the $12 million roads we just put in. So that is where this, this came into effect. When we look at the Headley rollback, we don't use all of that for the fire. Eventually it will though. So we could say to ourselves, maybe we don't increase the road mills right now. And we take what is left from that, the override, that take, part of it supplements the fires contract, and whatever left, that supplements the roads. It's risky, but
Buys us like 2 years.
it doesn't, yes, this will have to, if we do not put this on, it will come up again.
Right.
However, at that point, we will have better documentation and support. We won't, this is a bigger shot in the dark at, I don't know what number we need. Not that, say the good thing, or the comfort that the people could have in the road mills is that the road mills can only go to the roads. So if we increase this here, we cannot take this and go pay for wastewater treatment plant upgrades. We can't go fix the water tower. We cannot give everybody a raise. This can only go in the road funds. So there is a safety in that, if you consider it that way. So.
We had always planned on doing this in the beginning, but we just never did it.
Right. And I suppose, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, but technically, this board could increase that on its own. That was the conversation back when I brought up that it wasn't done. It was stated that past President Malzahn said that we could have done it at the table.
I'm not sure I agree with that because I guess the question would be, to which I don't know the answer, and I don't mean to answer a question with a question, but what concerns me is whether or not the millage had ever been at 3.5 mils. Because if it had, and it was lowered for whatever reason by action of the board just not levying the full amount, or because of a Headley rollback, then you can't just increase it without a vote of the people. It's only if it hadn't been at that amount before, and I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. Well, that was my understanding, and either way, I did not feel comfortable in this board, again, making that sort of a decision, that if there's going to be and ask for a tax increase, I believe that should be at the people's ballot. So even if that was a choice, it wasn't something I was willing to bring to this table. So. Do we want a decision on this, or do we want to, we do have to think about when the people go to the ballot, are they more likely to approve one increase and deny two, or pick one of the both, or by putting both on at the same time? Do we run any risk of not getting anything? And then we are in dire straits if we do not get at least the fire contract is very important.
Extremely.
Right, and that one doesn't really make it clear that that's the goal of it.
Which one?
The first one, where we talked about just the restoration question. If the goal is to use it for that,
You're
maybe,
the roads?
no.
Well, that language isn't there because technically as a general fund, we cannot guarantee it's in the general fund.
Right,
That's what our intent is, to help supplement that. But like I said, if we don't do this road one, part of that will go to the roads because the ability in the general fund is to go into funds anywhere that's needed.
right, and if I appreciate Matt's previous example of making sure that the residents understand where it's going and why. So, and now that I'm thinking about it, hindsight after we've already approved it, should there be something that helps them understand that the purpose of this was because we're facing changes with our fire department, and if people have to pick one or the other, or if they just really need to understand why we're doing this, we might have a better chance of it going through if they understand what this is about.
Well, and there is nothing holding us against educating. We cannot, there are certain words we can't use, correct, Mark? Like
Right.
vote for or,
Right.
but we can educate. We could send out flyers and say, this is, state the facts. We can have a meeting here that specifically speaks to that.
You can do mailers,
Yes,
flyers.
but there's certain language we cannot put on there because we cannot endorse, what would be the term?
You're allowed to provide information, you're allowed to give statistics, if you will, dollar amounts, things like that, but you're not allowed to take a position on the outcome of the election. Vote for it, vote against it. But the easy example is to look at what even though you might have some disagreement with it, sometimes there are gray areas, but look at what the schools do when they want their millage increased or their Headley rollback or whatever it is they might do, flooded with information but no positions. I mean, the positions are implied, but you can't state them.
So we could do education.
Yeah, and I think if we're doing education for that, presenting two, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Too
know,
Yeah.
confusing.
it seems like a big roll of the dice two at once.
And we run the risk of getting nothing, and that is, that would be very dire.
Right.
So we can choose to take no action here?
Table
Yeah.
it for now?
I think we have a better chance of getting our Headley rollback through without putting two on the ballot. That doesn't negate the importance of this. I mean,
Right.
Right.
we only have, like you said, a year or two at most until this is an issue again. And all the money that we're putting into these new roads with no maintenance plan whatsoever it's a really big investment that we're not protecting. So we really need this money at some point or
Right.
another.
I do feel that's our due diligence, that if the people have given us the money to repair the roads and we've done it, and then they will just disintegrate at such a fast rate,
Yeah.
as opposed if we can take appropriate measures to care for them over time, we could get them to last much longer.
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
So do we have a motion for this?
I'll make a motion to table it.
Okay.
Support at this point in time.
We have a motion to table by Edwards, support by Care. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have none opposed.
Just remember, besides the southwest section, we also have Prospect to do too,
Yes,
which is good. We waited because now DTE came through and cut it all up.
yeah, well, and that, they were gonna do that to the new roads, and we had a bit of a meeting. And they decided to run 2 mains and do both easements, so that they would not be crossing over. There's still a few points, but they were going to do that to the new roads. I was like, these aren't even 9 months old.
Yes. And you're already making Swiss cheese.
Okay, where's my agenda, because you switched things around here. Okay, so we're going to start with clerk resignation, correct? Okay. So I have for you a letter that I had received the morning of July 11th. I will read it. Dear Village President, this letter is to inform you that I, Catherine Trapp, elected clerk for the Village of Romeo, will not be returning to my position as clerk after the end of my medical leave commencing July 15th, 2024. I am officially resigning from my position. I would like to thank all of the village residents for their support for the past nearly 6 years. Also would like to thank my staff in the village office and my cemetery board for all of their hard work. Sincerely, Catherine Trapp. What I have included in here for you is just an excerpt from General Village Law in regards to vacancies. Right off the top, resignation. The resignation of a village officer must be made to the village president, and the resignation is effective upon receipt by the village president. So this resignation, although stated within here that she wished for it to last a few more days, took effect July 11th when I received the letter. Vacancies, further down, 6213. A vacancy occurring in the office of president, trustee, or any other elective officer shall be filled by appointment by the council, and the appointee shall hold office until the next regular village election. That is a question that everyone keeps asking. Oh, do we have it at an election? What do we have to do? So it is a board appointment by this board, and the person will sit for the term, which would be, what year are we in? So 2026, correct? So just over 2 years would be that term. So it's my recommendation that we set a special meeting for 2 weeks from today. I didn't write down the date.
22nd, 29th?
Yeah, Monday, the 29th. Monday is always a day that I know
Monday's a good day.
that you're good for. That gives 2 weeks. My suggestion is we put out some sort of notice. Would like to have a qualified person in the position. Some general wish lists, experience, BSNA, paying bills, those sorts of things, and do an open interview for the council, that whoever would like to fill in the position comes to the board. We ask questions, and whether we make a decision that night or not, we at least have some sort of path forward to getting somewhere.
So my question, the way I'm reading it, is that the appointee, once appointed by us, shall hold office until the next regular village election. Wouldn't that just be 3 months? Well, it doesn't really mention that it's specific to the term. It mentions the next regular election. While we're typically used to a cycle that it's 3 trustees, a president, and a clerk, and a treasurer, and then the off year is just 3 trustees, that's still the next regular village election.
No, Mr. Clark?
I agree
Good
with,
point.
with Mr. Kerr's statement about what the language says. I think that that is certainly a reasonable interpretation. I guess if you needed more time, you could take the contrary position that, well, to fulfill the balance of the term. But Mr. Kerr is correct. It says, and the appointee shall hold office until the next regular village election. And I think the next regular village election is November 5th of this year, if I'm not mistaken.
So while we could, take the time to figure it out, we'd pass the deadline to get it on the ballot anyway, and that would basically grant them 2 more years. But it should we so choose, we could get that on this next ballot.
Correct.
Like I said, August 13th. That's the submission deadline.
Okay.
So if we do what Nolan's saying, basically, then the person that we elect or nominate gets to serve out the rest of her term.
Or could
No.
we,
No?
No, under Mr. Kerr's interpretation, it would be until the next village election.
His second analogy of it was.
and would that only be for 2 years? If they ran that election and won, would they have 2 years, or then does that start all
Yeah,
over?
that'd be the next regular election would be in 2026 then.
Well, I'm not sure. You might want me to take a deeper dive into that, because it says at the next election, so that person is elected, but it doesn't say to fulfill the term. And so there can be an argument made, I've not looked at this, that it would be for a 4-year term, because that's the term for the office of clerk is 4 years. Now, it in a way, it throws your election cycle off kilter, but it fits within the language of the statute. I could make an argument really either way, that it completes the balance of the term, or no, it starts a new 4-year term, because the statute is silent about that, and the statute is also silent about the time within which you have to act to make the appointment. I mean, arguably, I don't recommend this, but arguably, you could just go without for 2 years. I don't think that's a good idea, but.
Because if you look into this, and I would really like you to do that, on the other hand, if you do that, our next meeting is until like August 19th or something like
Right.
that, and therefore the deadline's already passed.
Yeah.
And so we're just kind of, all you looked up is meaningless.
Right,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying, you can, because it doesn't say the council appointment must occur within 6 weeks of the resignation, or the disqualification, or a month, or whatever it is, it doesn't impose a deadline on you. You could, if you chose, change the cycle, if you will, by doing nothing. Again, I don't recommend that, but under the specific wording of the statute, I believe you could do that.
I think changing, I don't wanna do nothing, but I think changing the cycle has its benefit, because currently the president and the clerk are in the same year. And you can get 2 new people in the same year, which can be a very difficult scenario. So changing the cycle isn't necessarily a bad idea, and alternating those 2. If we could find a way to compromise and do something about it now, so we have somebody in place, and then still change the cycle, I think it would be a win-win.
Somebody has
I-
like 2.25 years.
I think that's the better way, but now that I'm looking at the Michigan.gov deadline list, August
that say?
13th is the deadline for ballot language for
language.
proposals. And the deadline for any candidate to even register is July 23rd. So if we were to post a position
So we might
for
already be done.
November,
Yeah.
we only have less than 10 days for them to even apply. So it's kind of a moot point at that point. I don't think we're gonna get that done in that period of time. So it looks like we'd be
our
looking
answer.
to fill something until 2026.
Okay, so do we want to still stick with 2 weeks from today? Have a special meeting?
Pointless at that.
No, I would say just try to bring somebody on for a couple of years, and
Mm-hmm.
Use the language was Mark put out to the balance of the term.
or I mean,
There's no language we have to
we
use.
potentially really could go 2025 also.
There's no language he
I
has
mean,
to
there's
use.
nothing to
We
say
just
we
can
can't do
fill
that.
something for 2
Yeah, we would have
years.
to, it would have to be a special, the village would have to pay for
No,
it.
That's true.
But if that's worth it to us, then we do that.
The council, you
Yeah.
do have the ability to call a special election. You just would have to decide whether it's a good idea, either substantively or economically, because I believe you'll have to pay both townships to conduct the election. The village doesn't conduct its own elections anymore, and hasn't for quite some time.
Well, no, the intent for a meeting in 2 weeks is to find somebody What is our plan then? What is the step forward, I guess is where I'm
I
at.
guess I would suggest kind of like what Mark and Nolan were talking about, having somebody, I don't know if you want to call them semi-prior or temporary, because they're kind of permanent if they're here for 2.5 years kind of thing. But have somebody fill in for that time period.
Right, and that's what I'm
And
suggesting.
they could even run for the office themselves then.
We hold that in a couple weeks from now. The office has already been without a clerk for 3 weeks. I'm talking about 2 more, that's 5 weeks we've all been
Right.
doing. I'm trying to get us some resolve in the office.
Can we meet sooner than 2 weeks?
If you want, I'm just,
Do
I
we
would like
have-
a step forward.
This might be a really bad question. Do we have to appoint a resident of the village?
I did ask Mr. Clark that, and he has concluded yes.
My opinion is yes, the statute doesn't say so, but you're filling an elected office or an elective office. And the person would have to be a resident to be able to run. And in the scheme of things, and again, I've not looked at this, but I can examine it more closely. It just seems to me, and my advice is that if you're filling an elective office with somebody who is not otherwise qualified, not in terms of skill set or anything like that, but is not qualified because of lack of residency, that's probably not a good idea. So my recommendation is that it be a resident, but is it possible that it doesn't have to be? Yes, I've not looked at that. If you want me to look at that, I can. I just have difficulty being able to recommend you can appoint somebody that doesn't live in the village to fill an office that you would have to live in the village to attain the office to begin with.
Okay. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I was more shooting towards the angle of maybe we can appoint someone who's maybe a more of a professional in that field, or it would be essentially like hiring someone who's good at that job for 2.5 years, but it's tricky in a small area. You're reliant on somebody wanting to do the job and being qualified for the job. You know, it's already, the limits are already small, so our pool's not very big.
And take the pay that's offered.
Correct. And I mean, yeah.
I would like to do something sooner than later. I know I can't be here on the 29th, but that doesn't mean everyone else can't. But I'm more than willing if we can meet sooner to do something sooner. Because I don't.
What
I
can
know
we do
people
in?
need their notice to get their ducks in a row,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
I don't know. Is there a reason we have to wait 2 weeks?
I mean, what
Just
can we
put
do
it
in
ad
that
in the
10-day
paper,
period? Sorry, what are you suggesting to do in that
MML?
10-day period?
Yeah, similar to that I did with chief posting, front window, website, social media,
But is that really gonna hit
MML.
the local resident people, like
I don't know.
Mark was saying? That'll go throughout the state
Social
of
media will
Michigan. and
bless you.
Hire professionals, but they could be from anywhere.
The newspaper, do you want to put a mailer together and put it in everyone's door?
think we
I
should
don't
put a
know.
mailer together. I mean, MML, is there a cost associated with listing
That's
it?
true. To your point, that hits that's not a local audience.
Right.
Yeah.
I think a mailer is more effective. MML, what are the chances residents who are, again, qualified and able and willing that are gonna also check MML's listing? I don't know if it's expensive to list there anyway.
Post it in the window?
It's $150
I'd-
a month.
Oh, as many listings as you want.
No, I
Let's
think
just
per.
I think we send a mailer out.
Because it also informs people of what's happening. They know that something is happening, and so it just lets them know, and this is what we're doing.
A
And
mailer might be a good idea.
yeah,
It's the most
I
effective,
like
yeah.
it.
Who wants to make it?
Make a mailer? A print shop?
It needs to be created.
I think the window's too tight, just to get the applicant, because now you got people rearranging their schedules, trying to get a good applicant out of the village of Romeo. They're gonna need time to set aside the job they're working now in order to take something on for a couple of years. I think, doing the term.
Try.
Beg your pardon?
I was thinking it's still worth a try.
Yeah, I mean, I've already talked to some people, and they're in their job right now, and they don't wanna take the risk of leaving that job if it's a short period.
Sure.
So, if you
It's understandable.
put the 2 year out there, then they have more of a chance, and they can
That's what we're discussing, yeah.
Well, that's what we've come to
That's pretty much
realize
the
that
only-
that's where we're at. It's going to be the fulfillment because we've practically missed the deadline
Mhm.
to even,
Talent's here, but they need time to rearrange things, and just 10 days isn't enough time.
You mean just for the interview?
Yeah, it's, like I said, it's gotta qualify by, what was the date?
We're not, I think you're missing,
past
you're
that.
missing that. We're not looking at rushing to get on the November ballot anymore. That's off the table because we're not gonna hit that deadline. So we're
that
just
deadline
thinking
is next Tuesday. We're not gonna make
Right.
that language by next Tuesday.
We're just discussing that it's rather important, so we should try to act fast to appoint someone for the 2-year, 6-month term, or 2-year, 4-month term, or whatever it is.
For the remainder of the term.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Correct,
suggesting,
yeah.
2 weeks for interviews for that position.
Yeah.
Shelley, what are you suggesting?
Case, wait till the August meeting.
Anything
Right,
but
and we've
Monday.
already done the job for 3 weeks, and you're suggesting 5 more weeks.
Well, if we could put a mailer out in 2 weeks, then by August's meeting, we could be interviewing candidates and possibly appointing someone, so.
Give everybody a chance to
You never know
rearrange
what's
their
out there.
schedules.
Well, I can do Monday if we do it earlier than 7,
That's,
I could probably
but I
make
have
earlier than
another
7.
commitment at 6:30.
the 19th is 5 weeks from now.
So, any
What time
any
do
day
you,
this week or next week, or if it's Monday, I have another commitment at 6:30.
Well, because my thought is, we don't necessarily need to be making the decision on the 29th, but that's an
approve a mail.
initial toe in the water. And if we wait till 5 more weeks to do that initial toe in the water, then we're waiting and we go, oh, well, we're still not sure. Now we're waiting we're waiting 7, 8 weeks. So my thought is if we do 2 weeks, see where we're at, and then we still have it on the August, what work might need to be done in the meantime in those few weeks.
so are we looking to have a mailer ready to be approved in 2 weeks? Is that the idea?
If that's what you would like to do,
Does the mailer have to be approved?
not necessarily.
I would just kind of leave that up to Megan, and, if she approves it, that's fine. And in interviews, I wouldn't want somebody sitting in front of all of us. I would leave that to Megan, because a couple things are important, and one of them is chemistry. And so they have to be able to work together. The only way they're gonna know that is if they work together. We're not gonna be able to know if they're gonna have chemistry together, but she will.
But it's also an elected position, and I think the residents should be able to be present just like we are, because it's not like
No, we
you
won't.
hire somebody.
It's just an appointment.
From this board.
It's a council appointment.
It's a vote here at this board
Yeah.
from
It's a
all
vote
of
at
us.
the board based on your recommendation, just like all the other appointed positions.
I don't know, is that,
I don't think that's true. I think it can just be a general board appointment. I mean, I think we're
shall
even
be
getting ahead of
sorry.
ourselves. I was just saying, I mean, let's just see if we get a couple of qualified candidates first, and she can gather the information, we can review them all, and we're still probably gonna weigh our decision on what the board agrees, but also importantly, what Ms. Poznanski thinks she would work well with too. That's gonna be weighed in either way, but I think we can just see what we get in the meantime.
And just to clarify, it does say shall be filled by appointment by the council.
Which is just
So-
like hiring a police chief, just like all the other appointed positions.
I don't think that's true. Like a planning commission member is a president appointed board approved.
Yeah, it says all vacancies in any other office shall be filled by the president by and with the consent of the council. So it is a bit different. Whereas this appointment of this clerk, Nolan could put up a name for motion. The other ones, only the clerk could put up, or the president could put a name forward for the, on the floor. So you are all able, your voices are just as big as mine.
Mhm.
So what's our decision? Are we coming back in 2 weeks to do something, or are
I'm
we
available
waiting
for the
till?
29th. I should be available for the 29th.
If you have a quorum,
And
go
what's
for
the
it.
intent for the 29th? Am I putting that on a flyer that I'm hoping to get out this week?
I mean, I'm probably not the best author for the flyer, but if a flyer can be produced, I don't think we need a meeting to send it out. not to put more work on Megan, but
Yeah.
if she can make the flyer, she can just send it out. I don't think we'd have to have a meeting to get that done.
Yeah, we have Publisher. It will not be fancy. It will be very basic, and I can probably, I would like to try and get it out by Wednesday, but we have to find a printer to print it fast enough. So it's all going to be contingent on other people too. I mean, I can create it, but that only goes, what's the printing turnaround?
Does a printer, like if we did any other, you want to do like a flyer or an actual stuffed envelope?
I was thinking just in every door direct mail. It's the easiest,
Supplier,
fastest.
yeah.
If we need to then fold them, stamp
Yeah,
them, address,
that's-
that's extra.
Yeah.
Every door direct, that can be done at the printer and they get it sent and it just goes.
Like UPS?
We generally use Shamrock. They have good turnaround. They're
Yeah.
local.
I think that's fine. I don't think a meeting's necessary.
No,
Okay, I will try to get it mailer together and out at the latest end of week. Does that,
Yeah, send it to Shamrock, tell them to get done.
okay. With the intent that Monday the 29th, anyone interested in the position, come present their resume to the board? Is that what the intent of the 29th is?
Cool.
Okay.
That'd be
I just
great.
don't want to misspeak. Okay, that's what we do. Could somebody please make a motion to have a special meeting on Monday, the 29th at 7 p.m.?
Who do we have in our packet that could create the flyer?
We have a,
Danielle.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it would be worth it to have someone else, as long as you approve what's on it, just so you're not sitting there playing with it.
Mhm.
I mean, if you can, I'd totally support that.
Yeah. I'll see who we can lean on.
So I was just gonna make a motion.
Go ahead.
So make a motion that we have our meeting on Monday, the 29th at 7 PM as a board to interview or see who's interested in the position of clerk.
Okay.
Support.
We have a motion by Bartholomew, support by Care. All in favor of the special meeting on the 29th? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There are none opposed. Now we're moving into our AT&T. This is a portion of a larger concern. This is a bill that has not been paid for, well, been
8 months?
over 6 months. So when I found the bigger concern, I went through emails, found a contact, started conversing with AT&T. There are larger outstanding bills. The numbers are very frightening. However, I am working on verifying what is actually true. Also verifying which ones we can get reduced. There is a trail. You can see Clerk Trapp did try to work on this since, I want to say, at least 20 or 21. So there are a point in time where she did ask for disconnection of certain lines, and it did not happen. So some of these bills that have to date accrued to $60,000 are not, in fact, that bill. They are going to backdate them to the date that they were asked to be disconnected. I don't have those numbers. There are multiple accounts such as that, much lower. Some of them say $5,500, $1,100. I am trying to figure out what is real, what needs to actually be shut off. And in that, our municipal person sent this over to me, pointed out that, hey, while we're trying to figure this all out, in the meantime, you should probably pay your current bill that is an actual bill. It is the police department are the ones with the AT&T. So I brought it to us because this is such a large amount that do not have. We threw it in council bills. It's in there, but I wanted to bring it to your attention. This will not be typical. $6,234.97. What we should generally see are the current charges, I believe, the just under $600 a month. But brought this one up to date. I wanted you to see that.
So can you answer on October 7th of last year? It says, and it's the second page in, so if you just flip.
Okay.
Yeah. It says previous bill 0. So
I believe that's when it started. So what happened was we, when the 911 system got brought in, our system was down, our phones were down. Dispatch was being used through the county, through Peach Fest. We had to wait a little bit longer for that to get installed. That's when this got initiated. And I think in her confusion of accounts, she thought this was one that she was trying to close out and didn't need to pay.
Okay.
Because I don't think it was intentional, but it was a bit neglectful.
Okay. Thank you.
Question for Mr. Clark. Mr. Clark, the $12,000 that was just discovered in evidence here, can we instruct can council instruct this bill to be paid out of that, take care of this debt? And it's money sitting there, and it's gonna go in the general fund, is that correct? As I understand?
Yeah.
Yes, the money would end up in the general fund.
So let's get rid of this bill. We found some free money, so let's pay it off.
Well, it has been paid. We allocated in our budget 4 phones, so there is some money there. I don't know what we had and what they can take and apply to last year's budget, if they can use still before June 30, if they can apply from that budget, because that would take care of it. But
We can use those funds, correct?
Which funds? I'm confused. I apologize.
The funds that I never received in the mail, a certified letter,
All right.
that $12,000. But, no, let's get excited here. The monies that was just discovered in the evidence room of the Romeo Village Police that is turning over to the village to be deposited, can we use those funds to take care of our outstanding bills with our police department?
I don't see any reason why not. If they're money that belongs to the village and the monies, I don't know, because forfeiture is both a legal term and a term of art. I don't know if it's the right term, but if those monies have been properly forfeited to the village and going to the general fund, then it becomes, and I don't mean this in a negative way, that money becomes commingled with all the other monies in the Village of Romeo's general fund, and you can spend them for any lawful purpose.
no, I just this was here because I, as the president, do not have authority to spend $6,000. I put this in your council bills, but wanted to bring it further to your attention of why that was there.
I think you've done a good job of uncovering a lot of the financial screw-ups.
You essentially approved it when we approved bills. But I wanted you to know why that number was so high, and do not expect that every month for this bill.
And I thank you for that, because when you went through the packet, and I did, you can connect the dots. So it's appreciated.
Okay, if we are all set there, we'll move into back, I suppose, to Sisson Park. So I have Sisson Park here in quotes. I have Sisson Park as a twofold item. This is to be an update of where I have been contacting and in conversation with Macomb County. Still trying to figure out, I mean, let's face it, the village is kind of out on its own with this park. If we're going to create it, it's up to us. Do you guys have it? It was just literally just a page with Sisson Park on it. I apologize. I can't find it either. I don't know where to know. Sorry. So I've been continued conversations with Macomb County, trying to see what we can do. There are so many grants out there. Essentially, the building of this park will rely on grant money.
Yeah.
I don't see us wanting to use very much taxpayer dollars unless there's some sort of match or opportunity. But where we get stuck at, and even applying for these grants, is they always want to know, well, how much do you plan to spend? What's it going to look like? There's a little more details that we need before I can even just apply for a grant. I need to know what I could apply for, just a tree grant, or am I going to apply for an infrastructure, or there's just different items. Maybe there's a playscape, but we don't want a playscape, so why am I applying for a playscape? So I've been talking to Macomb County. They do have an ability to do very small, dry drawings. They've thrown one at me. It is a beginning drawing. We're going to meet after Labor Day. I think we decided on sometime in December, do a community meeting, show this drawing, and get input. We need to start somewhere. So when you eventually see this, do not be instantly too critical that, oh, that's what it's going to be. This is just a get it started kind of view. We're going to need some parking. The parking in the picture isn't going to work. It's going to need to be changed. But the idea is parking is there. What do we want? What can it look like? The little bit that I have heard from the community is that the intention here is a memorial park. A walking path is suggested in the picture. But along those lines, I wanted to touch on a recent current event that we all know about. We had a local, maybe not a current resident, but did live here, Brad Reckling. He was a high school Romeo graduate. So in thinking of this park and in recognition of their family and the fact that this park doesn't actually have an official name, I was going to ask the board that we would name this park in memory and make an official note of Reckling Park. I have reached out to the family, asked them permission, their thoughts. They said they would be honored. So if the board would so choose, I would suggest, I'm making the motion that we officially name this location as Reckling Park.
Support? All support.
Check with the residents. And he was from Romeo, yes, lived in, or worked for Oakland County, but the residents in the village, if something's gonna be named in the village of Romeo, might not, let's check with them. I guess that's what I'm saying.
I think that's what we're here for.
And we can be voted out just as quick.
Exactly, but that's why we're here.
He was
It's a representative.
His father still lives here in the village. There's still Romeo
Well,
ties.
My kids all know.
Do we know if Oakland County plans on doing anything since this service was to them specifically?
I do not know.
He lived in Richmond too. I think it's a good idea.
You have support, right?
I made the motion. Bartholomew supports.
Is it officially Reckling Park, Brad Officer Reckling Park?
I don't know what would we
Just let the family decide.
to make it official.
Bradford
And-
County Memorial
Probably
Park.
just put it out there.
I like that.
There you go.
That sounds
Yeah,
good.
I kind of, because you went through the whole motion of we don't have a plan for the park, so what if we come up with a plan that then honors something that, and get the family involved and honor something that reflects that, and have a plan before we,
I think the residents would like that.
you know?
Put it out there.
I think it has to start somewhere.
I agree.
Well, we have a motion and
Okay.
support.
Do we have any more discussion? Okay. Would you call the roll?
Bartholomew,
Yes.
Fowler,
No,
Rosso,
No.
Woznansky,
Yes.
Edwards,
Yes.
and Care.
Yes.
Okay, moving into Our road,
Cameras?
our road,
Oh,
our-
yeah. Road purchase.
I'm going down to road project parcel purchase, is that where we're at?
Yeah.
Okay. So in going through our road project, there's actually been a couple places, where it's been found that our road are on other people's property. The other one, we are able to, person is amenable to just an easement. This one, however, they would prefer, I don't know, just a little more cut and dry of this is mine, that is yours. So I have in here, these are the original plot plans. You can see, so what we're talking about is Rattel Street. As you can see on this, on the plot plans, and then I zoomed in on it, if you would drive by it, this is not what the street looks like. It is a full through street. However, as you can see on the plot plan, the property, our road sits on this home's property. So we've done, the village has done title search, verified that yes, this, in fact, nothing has been put in since then. Gone to the people and I've asked them what they would be willing to work out. They said, yeah, we would prefer if we cut and dry and sold it, come up with a number. So I have a picture here, you can see we went and very clearly surveyed it, painted it. You could see if we were to take up this road on the north side, without us doing anything, we could put only down a 9-foot wide road. Because actually, we do own, I think it's like 10 or 11, but some of that north property is actually road. That is curb and easement. So the technical actual asphalt would only be about 9 feet wide. I did go to them this past Friday, showed them the offer. I put it in here somewhere. The amount came to just under $3,000. The engineers, so within HRC did some comps, figured out what it would be, because this property is different than a residential like a valuable property. This is property along a street. You can't put a house on it. You can't improve it to make it, it's more or less, they did comps to vacant property. What they came up with was a cost of $2,862. Again, in my position, I do not have the amount to spend that much money. And then also I want to know, is this the foot forward that the council would like to go?
Was the homeowner accepting to that amount?
Not yet. They did ask for the verification of the comps, which I did send. I sent to them today. Wanted to verify with Mark that that was an appropriate thing to pass on.
Mm-hmm.
He said, don't see why not, so pass that on to them today.
I mean, is the homeowner being receptive? Is it a pleasant conversation so far?
So far,
Okay.
yeah. That's where it's, if it wasn't, there is potential for other avenues. I hope to not have to go down those avenues. Eminent domain takes time, and these are our residents. Just taking things from them isn't really something I would like to do. If it came to that, there is that option. But so far, yes, they've been very amenable.
Yeah.
So if we purchased it, are we purchasing all the way up onto the lawn?
Yes, what that shows is essentially that would be curb. There is no curb there. So 2 feet into the lawn is what you would need for curb. So the road will still go back down in literally the same width, but that extra 2 feet gives them a curb.
So, I know you're gonna tell me it's not possible, but I'll throw it out there. And just so everyone knows I'm thinking about it. This little street is a very high-traffic street for Amanda Moore. And there's no sidewalks. And so as I was looking at it, I was thinking, is there a possibility of putting in some kind of sidewalk for the children who cut through there to go to and from school. Because not only are they doing it, but 22 other parents are trying to park in that little tiny street, and it's not exactly a safe scenario. So it doesn't sound like we would have room to put a sidewalk.
No, and to be truthful, it does not sound from conversations that they would want that.
I mean, at that price point, I don't think it's a big deal. Obviously, that's depending on that homeowner being okay with that price point, but it sounds like they're being reasonable and fair, and we're on top of something that belongs to them, so I think it's only reasonable of us to pay them that.
Make an offer.
I would agree.
Need a motion?
So this is just information right now, right?
Well, no, I was hoping to have at least a not to exceed 3,000. We're pretty, I don't know how they're gonna come back.
Because we plowed this
Right,
years and years and years and took care of it.
right. The other option is to do nothing, and this road doesn't get done. Well, that's what I mentioned earlier, is we could eminent domain it, but I'm really hoping to work with these residents and not just take their
Yeah.
property.
So we use the $3,000, if not, we'll go the other avenue.
Can we give them a little more to get a sidewalk there?
I can offer, but it just didn't seem that that was something they wanted. It would eat more, obviously, into their side property, and then it would also be more care, upkeep on the homeowner.
I think they would go for it, because they use that street to go to the driveway, which is in the back of the house.
Right, I can approach them I'd have to ask engineering how much more we would need for sidewalk.
I'm thinking of the kids. I mean, that is a very highly trafficked, and the kids walk in the street now to and from school on that little dead-end strip. So if we're in the middle of all this, it would be a nice opportunity to take Zach's $12,000 and put it towards the sidewalk.
There we go.
We're paying phone bills, we're doing a lot of stuff.
You can only spend it once, you do know that.
Yeah. And maybe if you appeal to them, the reason being, it really is not a safe area.
Mhm. We also do have vests, armored vests that still that could use, there's still a lot of police things that need to be done.
I'd make a motion not to exceed $3,000 to approve the property purchase of this parcel on Rattel Street. I'm not finding the right parcel number in any of this, but if you wanna say it. It's a 900
Actually, that house is
9-001.
on, that house is on Bailey Street.
Yeah.
Either way,
Yeah,
I'll support your motion.
we had a motion by Care, I believe, Bartholomew supported it,
Do you need to read the
to
parcel
not,
or are we fine?
to not exceed the $3,000. We'll just say to the resident,
At this end.
yeah.
That's actually Joe Downey's niece.
Is it?
She owns, yeah, Jessica.
Do you want to do it all in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Of the not to exceed 3,000?
Yeah.
Okay, any opposed? There are none opposed.
And I guess there could still be a conversation to be had about the sidewalks if this portion goes well, but let's at least get this part done.
Yeah,
first.
I can ask and we can do it, because it doesn't have to be done at the same time. The mills and these trucks only come around so often. I have on here village cameras. Again, this one didn't have any supporting documentation. This was a bit of, because I didn't have the numbers from the emergency purchase with the police. Prior to the clerk leaving, I had been looking into seeing this information that Chief was bringing in regarding the cameras. I was noticing that our current contract that we have on the cameras out at the DPW and wastewater, we have annual charges. We pay $200-300 quarterly, and then we also pay a yearly $100 ring doorbell subscription. So we paid for the cameras, we paid for the installation, and we're continuing to pay for the use of them. Where the cameras that the police department are getting, it's a one-time
We own them.
camera. So actually doing a purchase for the cameras to cover DPW would be less than the annual fees we're gonna pay this next year, and we're done. There's no annual fees. It's a better camera, and it links right into the police department.
Do we have a contract with that service that
No.
we just cancel it?
Yeah, it's just a Ring doorbell.
How many locations are we talking to put new cameras at? Wastewater treatment?
Well, this is where the conversation's at, like, it's a conversation. So we currently have them at wastewater and one or two at wastewater, and then DPW, I believe we have 3. Like, 1 at wastewater and 4 at DPW. The other conversation wanted to be had was, the village park. If we remember, not too long ago, within the last couple months, there was an incident in Rochester Hills at their splash pad. Things are, the world is not as safe as we think it is just because we live in the village of Romeo.
Mhm.
I often tell myself not to leave the front door unlocked, because reality is, we believe that we are in this little bubble, but we're not. So the thought was, do we want a camera there? Last year at Kid Fest during Peach Festival, someone didn't like that the barricade told them they couldn't come through, and so they moved it and drove because they needed to park, even though Kid Fest was happening. If we had a camera, we could see who was there and who did it and address it.
I think we should have it at the park.
The other concern of a camera is we were thinking the iron removal plant on First Street. This is where, I'll put out all the information, but who's paying attention? This is where our water is treated at. There was just an attack, Ann Arbor. They had a bad actor put something in the water. We have no eyes over that right now. We hope that it never happens, and maybe by putting this out there and getting it out of the way, now we have it and people know about it, and now there's nobody putting anything over into our water.
Will these cameras be monitored live or just recorded?
I believe they're live. Could you speak to that at all?
They can be integrated with the current system that we have. We would just have to purchase a larger monitor to capture them all. But that's simply nothing more than
The TV.
Best Buy or something, buy a big screen TV and put it on the wall.
Can they be monitored by dispatch or?
And those feeds are recorded and kept for like a set period of time that we decide, or how does that work?
Capture on the new computer system I told you about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
The mainframe will capture the video recordings.
How long do they keep those recordings?
I can address that with Matt when he comes in tomorrow officially
Okay.
on it, but I believe it can be dictated by us.
Okay.
And how much space I'm assuming we want to.
6 days, 9 days.
Yeah.
So that was something, they've kind of quoted those items out, did not pull the trigger on those, as I do not see those under the emergency, but it is something that I'm thinking will save us money over time. They pay for themselves in less than a year. And then we all have everything on the same circuit. People are watching them 24/7 should something happen. And,
Good idea.
I think one at the wastewater treatment would be a good idea as well.
Do you guys have those in your budget, that it would just come out of your budget, or are you looking for it to come out of general fund, or what?
we have to figure it out. Essentially, everybody's would come out of their own. But realistically, if I can remember correctly, some of these cameras were $600, $400 a piece, and it's only that, the one time. Put it up
We're paying
and,
that yearly just to have the subscription.
exactly, that's what I'm trying to say, is by the time that we pay the subscriptions at the end of the year, purchasing these cameras just for the current, not if we do additional ones, of course, that blows it out of the water. But just to replace what we currently have, by the second year, we've already saved money. So, the concern here with Chief was that by the time we would come back in August to get everything in order, if we really wanted one at the gazebo, we're too late. Peach Fest is right there. Do we have time to order it, get it installed before Peach Festival? So I had the conversation here. Again, I don't have all the supporting documentation, but if we put one camera at the gazebo to capture enough of what we need, I can tell you it's less than $1,000, correct? if the decision
Would
was
it
to be.
catch the whole park or just a portion?
When I spoke with him, he referred to the gazebo, it's my understanding they usually put the little camera in, with 360 degrees. And then we need a Wi-Fi connection, but the tower, at least from, it has a direct line of sight. That may not be the case with wastewater treatment in the well, the incoming water, that still has to be looked into. But the gazebo, we didn't think would be an issue, did have to have the Wi-Fi, that's all we were requiring there for the cameras, to have the Wi-Fi too.
Okay, so it would get the whole park, and it would be up high enough that you could not tamper with it?
Well, I don't know.
I don't know where you're thinking of putting it.
The conversation we had for the entire view was going to be actually interior. It would be inside the gazebo. Low enough to be able to
So it's
capture-
just in the gazebo,
It's going to be inside the gazebo.
but not the whole, it won't get the whole park?
Yeah, it will. It will capture the whole area. But, I mean, whether the camera is reachable
Yeah.
to somebody who is a an actor, it very well maybe, but any camera that is anywhere in the town, somebody could do something to,
Pellet gun.
for that event would be captured as well.
So the thought was, if we wanted to get this done before August, we at least address that one. I can come back definitely with more numbers for bigger, but I also didn't want to go get numbers for all these other places, and there was no interest in actually putting cameras in other places. So,
I
And
think it's
do,
cool.
do we need to put something that notifies the public that they're on camera?
I don't believe that's legally required.
I don't know, Mark.
I think so.
It's our property.
It would be a bad idea, it's just a deterrent to let people know. In any of these critical infrastructures, posting on the fence coming in, this facility is under use or.
What do you got on that?
Yeah.
So I make a motion to.
If you could give me, again, up to $3,000, because if I'm not on the mark for 1,000 and it's like 1,200, then I'm,
For a camera for the Village Park, not to exceed $3,000.
okay, that will work. And I will only use what is needed, and we will report back. I have a motion by Edwards, support by Bartholomew. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And then you
We
can,
haven't
you can get a list for the other options, and we
Yes.
can price that out as well.
Yep. Okay, moving into the SEMCOG grant. This is before us because this is a match, so in order to receive this, we do have to expend funds. As I said, it's an award of $40,000. We are receiving $32,740, and the village does need to match $7,260. Should this be our wish to accept this grant, do we have a motion to pay our match?
I would make a motion to accept the grant and pay our match of $7,260.
Support?
Okay, we have a motion by Edwards, support by Bartholomew. I am going to register, there is a training on how they want, you do have to do monthly reporting, and I do not yet know how we do the match, whether that's we show them we spent it, or we hand over that money. I will learn that, but either way, we're spending it.
Great.
Can we have it all in favor of accepting the grant and matching? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And opposed. Okay. We have our water tower retention pond. I did include here for you a review by the engineers for the cemetery board. They have not found anything stating that this retention pond needs to be retained for any specific reason. They find it dry. DPW has verified there is no infrastructure underneath this, so there is nothing that would need to be dug into at some point to replace. So this is on here as the cemetery board would wish to use it.
Well, then we just fill it in.
I had talked to the chairman, Debbie asked me to talk to the general contractor at the school property. And they said any of that black dirt that they have left over, they'd be going into the village.
Cool.
So at the end of the project, they got us sitting there, pretty much like they had at Powell, that back mound they have at the football field. He goes, wish we knew that before we put that back there. I said, well, we'll take whatever you got left over.
Yes. Are they gonna do it, or do we need to move
They're
it?
gonna, they're gonna do it.
Hmm,
So,
Okay.
We just need to open up that back gate off of, what is that, the one that goes up to the softball fields.
Adam Sheet?
Walter Sheets, yeah,
Walter Sheet?
right here. So do we have, essentially, we need to expand the boundaries of the cemetery if we would like to include this. So is that what the board would like? And do we have Mark, is a motion enough, or do we need a resolution in that?
I would make a motion, if you're inclined, I would do it in the form of a motion to expand the boundaries of the cemetery. You'd have to decide whether you wanna do it with a survey description so that it's definite, which would be my recommendation, but, I mean, you could say to expand it to the north as far as the parking lot, and you can do that, but I think a formal motion with the precise boundaries is advisable, because you know what you're talking about, but in 5 years, 10 years, 50 years, 100 years, who's gonna know? And so I think the greater precision, the better, and that's my advice.
Okay, so can we at least have a motion to go out and get a survey with the intent of expanding the boundaries, so that we can bring you a
Yeah.
formal?
Can we use that? I'll second it.
Sure. So motion by myself, second by Fowler. All in favor? Aye. Do we have any opposed? We have none opposed. And we are ending with paid parking with the addition, Nolan?
Yeah, so two quick things. First, we'd be looking to, Nate, you could jump in if I'm misspeaking at all. Essentially, the DDA wants to explore a couple different avenues of paid parking, just like we typically do. You know, we'd like to look at 3 comparable sources, see what's cheapest, see what's best, most effective. So I guess, I don't know if it would come in the form of a resolution, but the process would be the village council imploring the DDA to explore those options of an app-based parking system, where they have our permission to, I don't know the formal
It would move
verbiage that
forward
we need.
with allowing the DDA to have this paid parking company set it up and actually implement it in the village.
Is this what you're looking for? Is this your motion?
Yeah, I mean, do you want to word that
I say,
better?
can you clarify it?
I guess I'll make a motion to allow the DDA to explore and implement an app-based parking solution for the DDA district.
I'll give you a second.
Paid parking.
So they're gonna implement the rates and the fee structure and,
Yeah, so we discussed, because it's not a source of revenue, we're not trying to get money from it. We'd probably look at maybe a calculation of, if we have 4 lots, let's say, and we want to repave one every 15 years, or one every 5 years, and what our costs are for maintenance, we'd like to try to look at that, divide it by the analysis that we already have of how many spaces are being used each day, each month, each year, and that'll basically set the prices for us. Now, there'll have to be some calculations, like maybe we turn it off on Thursdays because it's bike night, or we cut it off for Beach Festival, or we cut it off before 4 p.m. Those details can be ironed out at a later date, but for now, this is just what they're looking for, is just permission to explore it and eventually implement it. But we're gonna work with our joint subcommittee to iron out the fees a little bit more specifically. We're not looking for it adds up really, really quickly. The fees can be really, really cheap. We can implement things like discounts for senior citizens, Romeo citizens. There can be for people maybe who can't figure out the app, we could do like a pass for senior citizens or the elderly, where they can have a little Metro Park type sticker on their car, and that kind of gives them, a lot of those details can be ironed out. But that's what we're looking at for
So if we
pay.
vote yes on this, we're basically voting yes to fees and rates we don't know yet, and timeframes and parking parameters we don't know yet.
Well, we still have an existing subcommittee that's working on it, but we can't move forward without the permission to explore and implement it.
So yes, we're looking to implement paid parking in Village of Romeo.
that's the first step, is just to implement paid parking. We're not gonna do all this research if we don't have permission from the board to implement it
And
at
then
some
Chief,
point.
how do you feel about monitoring and enforcement of all that?
Kind of do that now in that shift. We're referring to the after-hour parking or the daytime business parking,
Daytime business.
and the application has mechanisms letting us know when things are about to expire or are expired. We can check that, if they said how we would be notified of that though. Is there a requirement to put an app on our phones or?
All of those.
Like, can we get you guys to come up to the mic so everyone can hear you? Thank you.
So each of the apps, I think to answer Chief's question, he said how would they find out? They have a little bit different solution. So one of the apps, you would have access on your phone or in your computer system. I'm not sure exactly which one was preferable. And you would be able to be notified that, like, the southwest quadrant, there's 2 cars that are expired. The time has expired. You can easily go over there. It's by license plate number. So if any of you ever use any parking apps in other communities, you put your license plate number in your name, and then you enter how long you're going to be there. And then they would be able to issue a ticket. My understanding, you can correct me, Chief, if I'm wrong, right now we don't really have a way to enforce that 2-hour time frame that we have, say, on Main Street, because we can't chalk tires, right? So right now, it's just a sign that's on the road. And as we've all seen, there's some cars that are sitting there all day long on Main Street, which causes some of our businesses to not have customers flowing in and out of there because the cars are sitting there on Main Street all day. So this would allow us to be able to enforce those 2-hour minimums. And like I said earlier, we could say your first 15 minutes are free, you know? Any of those things are a possibility, and because it's so flexible, it can be changed tomorrow. So if we don't like, you know, what the fee structure is or how we have it set up, it's quickly changed. It's not something that we have to, you know, spend a bunch of time reprogramming meters and all of that. It's a quick change.
So then people could come one week and it would be one rate, but then a week or two later, it would be a different rate.
You could potentially do that.
And how soon or quickly should we go, oh, this just is not working? We could turn it off. Do you sign is it a long-term contract? Is it monthly?
I don't believe it is. Again, I've researched just this one, because I wanted to see what we could or, you know, couldn't do with this one. I don't believe it's a long-term contract with it, and it's so nominal.
It's so cheap. I mean, ideally, our next step goal here is with a little bit of permission, I guess, we can start speaking with sales reps from each of these different companies. We can compare which one Chief likes best because it integrates well with his system. We can figure out, I mean, the startup fees are essentially non-existent. It's like $400 to get to purchase the app and to start using it. There's no electric, there's no physical kiosks or meters. So the costs are already pretty cheap. But that's the next step, is the exploration. Say this one says we have to be locked in for a year. We can pull the panic button after 3 months with this one if we want to. So the next step is to iron out a lot of those details. I think we already have the next meeting date set to kind of start comparing different software or different programs as well.
And have you done studies on how that will impact the visitors downtown? Will they not stay as long? Will they, because if they have a minimum or have to keep feeding their meter, how does that impact?
Yeah, so a couple good points, Shelley. The nice thing is they don't have to come out and feed a meter. So if I am shopping in Town Hall Antique, I can get a notification on my phone that my time is coming up. Do I want to add more? And I can easily add more. Right now, we already have what we want to be a 2-hour minimum parking. We just have no way enforcing it. So really, Main Street should be flowing of traffic and customers. It shouldn't be for long-term parking. It should be for that 2-hour really time frame, and then you're moving on. Our long-term parking is, you know, maybe North Bailey. We're not suggesting at this point to make that paid parking. That would be free parking. So if you wanted to stay longer, you don't want to pay and you want to walk, you can park over there. Our wayfinding signs will help with that, because there'll be a banner right on 32 that says public parking. So it's a quick, easy thing, I can see that, if I don't want to pay.
Is 2 hours long enough? What's the average length of stay in downtown when
They
someone
can pay
visits?
for as much as they want.
Yeah, they can pay for as much as they want. That's our suggested, that's what our signs say right now, that it is.
Right, but you also said you want it to be 2 hours to keep people moving on. So what will it be in the future?
It'll still stay 2 hours, and I can pay for as long as I want. I could pay for 8 hours if I wanted to.
So you have to pay every 2 hours? So you're
Not
paying-
necessarily, you can set that. I'm sorry, maybe that's confusing. You can set, I pay for an hour, I pay for a half hour, I pay for 2 hours. When I come, if I know I'm going to the office pub for dinner, I might pay for 2 hours versus I run in real quick to get my carry out, now I'm only paying for 15 minutes. Or if we decide to do the 15 minutes are free, the first 15 minutes, I'm not paying anything.
Are we able to, or is the village able to charge for parking, if those parking spots are county?
So on the county road, right?
A lot of them are.
Yeah, some of them are ours, some of them actually are not ours. We'd have to look into that. My thought would be, I'm unsure.
I guess I would see how Rochester does it.
I mean, Rochester
Because
has
Rochester
paid parking
Road
all
is
up and
M
down
one
Main.
fifty-three or whatever it is, and so if they could charge, if they got meters on
They do.
Main Street,
They do.
They do.
then we can.
Easement.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily denote, because ours is the same road, and some of ours are ours, and some of ours are actually county.
And the goal of charging is to raise money to take care of parking lots, right?
Couple things.
Maintenance, yeah.
Couple things. So yes, parking lots, and maintaining parking lots. It's to improve the flow of Main Street traffic and parking availability. It's to get business owners and employees off of the prime spots to allow for customers to have space to park and shop. So right now, all of those spots, if there's any employees sitting there for a length of time or business owners taking up those spots, that's spots that customers can't park and can't get into those stores. So there's a couple,
So what's to stop them from just paying on the app all day long?
they could,
They could.
Then we're getting money for it.
They
Give
could.
us more money for
At least it's
parking lots and
offset.
stuff.
they absolutely could.
Nobody would.
I would imagine that would be few and far between, paying every single day or every one of my shifts. I'm paying to park on Main Street. I would be surprised if that happened, but there's nothing precluding them from doing that.
So how many business owners are parking on Main Street? And taking up a lot of space for a long time?
I can tell you when I drive through town, I see at least 3 or 4 cars that are consistently there on Main Street when I go to work and when I'm coming home. I don't watch
So-
them all day long, so I can't say for sure, but
Sometimes they're employees of other businesses too, I'm sorry.
yes,
So
no, thank you.
3,900 residents in the village are gonna have to pay to park because 3 or 4 business owners choose.
It's not just business
No,
owners, it can be
and I
employers.
would argue that
employees.
they don't have to pay to park. They could park in one of the other lots and not pay.
The
And I-
residents that live here?
Absolutely. I could,
It's
pay- I
just-
could
it's
park
just
at
Main
North,
Street.
I
That's
could,
it.
I could park at North Bailey and I could walk. I can park in any of the other, behind the office pub and I could walk. You don't have to pay. And I would argue too that this is also visitors that are paying. This is not just our residents.
But Nolan, didn't
These
you
are
say you could
visitors.
also have like a sticker or something in your car? if
It's
you were-
just another
If you were a
possibility.
resident, you wouldn't have to pay?
Sure, we can make it vastly discounted for residents, we can do whatever we so choose. It's only affecting, I think, the 21 or 19 spaces that are along Main Street. And I guess if we don't have permission via an easement, maybe it's even less than that.
So this initial implementation, you are strictly asking for those spaces on Main Street
And around Village Park.
and around Village Park.
Mhm.
Just the park side of Village Park, not the residential.
Right.
or
Side
the
of
Church
it.
Street.
Correct.
Non-Church Street parking
So
lot.
how are people gonna know when they park, which spot to pay for and which one not?
So within the app, there's, we get some signs made that are, it's a nominal cost, and it tells you which section you're in. So if it's around Village Park, you know, that section might be 4, 5, 6, 7. I put in there that I'm in section 4, 5, 6, 7, and this is my license plate. And that section is designated, so there's so many spots in that little section, and my license plate should show up within that section, and that's what I'm paying for. It doesn't have to be a specific spot, it's just within that area. So each quadrant on Main Street could also be the same thing.
But how will people know that they need to do this?
There'll be a sign that says this is paid parking down Main Street. So the existing signs that say 2 hours, there's just another little street sign that says it's paid parking, and there's a little QR code on it that you can scan with your phone.
And what about Village Park? You have to be adding signs around there?
Yes, yep. And I think there's
Poles
there's
there.
poles there that are already there that have some signage on them. So it would just be adding to that.
Nolan?
So- oh, go ahead. Michael?
Say, Nolan, does your motion include specifically for these areas?
Those are the only areas we discussed and identified, off of those reports that we had, the 4 different parking analysis studies that were done. If it would be preferred, we can,
I think this is
Specifically
an
in
opportunity
the-
to have a test that, it's neither, yes, we have them all everywhere, and no, we don't get anything. If we could, exclude, or maybe whichever way you wanna go on that, that it is for these sections. Now we have an opportunity to dip our toe in the water for these spaces, and only these spaces for the time being, and should, we need to expand, it comes back to the board for further expansion.
yeah, that's a good idea. Maybe just start on maybe Main Street, or what are you proposing?
I'm good with both. I know that the Village Park that area is very busy.
With the same cars every
Yeah,
single
the same
day,
cars every day.
without having to mention it.
And this allows us to at least try something new. It's been a long time since we've tried it. I understand we tried it before. It can easily be done away with.
Should we set a maybe like a trial period, or just rescind it when we need to at that
I don't know,
point?
maybe we want an update in 6 months. Something like, I don't know that we need to put like a stamp for 1 year, because then people might, oh, it's done in that amount of time. I think an update would be appropriate, see where we're at, where have we gone, maybe we have a room full of people in 6 months that say, heck, no.
Well, that input's
And
just
now
as
we
valid. I
just,
mean, that's
and now we
helpful.
just determined, but we tried something instead of talking about it.
Yes, and I think part of it, I'm sorry, is education, why we're doing it, and what the reasons are that we are doing it, and, you know, maybe it is a mailer to explain to the residents, and how we'll be able to start maintaining and updating parking lots, making them safer with these funds.
How would they be safer?
Repaving, patching, doing new striping. My understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, we don't have any plans to do that in any of our village parking lots right now, and some of them are pretty tough and trip hazards. So this would be, we'd be able to do that.
And the parking lot on North Bailey, what's the extent of what the medical office building is maintaining it? Because I remember that being part of the original arrangement they were supposed to maintain, so what is the extent of that?
That's as far as I recall. What is your question?
Like,
In
is it just
connection to
salting it
this.
in the winter, or is it striping it and fixing
Gotcha.
it?
No, I recall it was more of a landscape maintenance, that they are doing the watering in
Do they plow it?
landscape. No, I believe we plow it. I believe they put in the new landscaping, and it
Mhm.
was to maintain, basically they wanted an aesthetically pleasing parking lot outside their window, so they agreed to take care of it. I don't recall it being, I'd have to go back and look at it, because that was 2018, 2019, when that was put into place. But what is your are you asking for in conjunction? to,
Well, if some of the money was going to maintain parking lots, but if that medical office building is already maintaining it.
gotcha, okay,
I was trying to figure out
okay.
if left hand knew what the right hand was doing, basically, yeah. Okay.
So, Nathan supported my motion. Can we just say that we want to update in 6 months? Do I have to put it in the motion?
Can I read the motion as I
Go
have it
ahead.
written down?
That'd be nice.
Motion to allow the DDA to explore and implement paid parking. That was it.
I would
Paid
like it-
parking solutions, so that it covers a couple different things. Along Main Street with, an analysis in 6 months.
So no Village Park.
Maybe we just start with, I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think around the park too, except for on the residential side of Rawls. So
West,
basically where there's signs.
Along the park, okay.
Mhm.
Sorry, Sharon, along the park as
Is
well.
that right?
how soon do you think you'll be able to implement?
Well, I mean, I would assume by the low cost of the startup, as soon as we narrow down which one we like out of the three, we'll have to make sure we coordinate with Chief and see which one he likes the best. But aside from that, there's not really many startup costs. Some new signs get made up. I mean, it could probably happen in a matter of 2-3 months. I mean, we could choose to purposely not implement it by Peach Fest if we think it would cause too much headache. Or we could purposely try to hustle up and get it done by then for the revenue. 6 and 1, I mean,
And the DDA is going to pay the money?
yes.
Okay.
So I guess my answer is just we'll work as hard as we can and we'll see where it ends at that
Well, I'm
point.
just thinking it's not going to be next month or the other month, so 6 months is really 4 months now. So I'm just thinking if you throw it out 6 months from implementation.
I mean, I'm assuming public comment in 3 months will probably tell us a lot anyway, so. But we'll just, with update in 6 months is fine. If it only had been up for 3 months, then we'll extend it if we need to.
Sure.
I believe some of them specifically mentions that they could be funded. I don't know if all of them are, so that's one of the things.
I think the one we looked at could be a computer, because actually the one, you don't even have to have an app. You could just go on Safari, you could go on a computer at home, pay for the spot and go drive to it if you really wanted to. It's a website predominantly, but that's also nice for the users, because not everyone has to go to the app store and put their password in and download an app. They can just go on to Chrome or Safari and pay for it there.
The regular driver that just wants to drive up and either tap the meter or something, I mean, you're still able to do that, right? I mean, let's just say I'm just happen to pop in town, I wanna run into the bar for a quick second.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a QR code, and you really just have to open the camera on your phone, and it
I don't
break,
have a phone,
well,
so.
then you
So-
probably
so
shouldn't
then
park
I-
there.
public parking? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
just gave a
Yeah.
scenario.
Yep.
But that's a
If I
good
just-
point.
Yep.
It's a good point and a common scenario. So we can talk about solutions like a pass,
So
maybe it's,
meters are no longer being run, just no meters at all.
no.
Now in Detroit, you can program your license plate number like you're
Yeah.
talking about.
Correct.
The police department can ride by and monitor it.
Mhm.
Yep.
So those will not be visible.
They're correct.
You won't be able to pull into somebody else's already still going meter.
Like, 'cause that's the problem.
Exactly, yeah, that's right, Matt.
Somebody will drive up and say, oh, let me just run in here.
Yeah.
The police, they are looking into, Chief, the license plate reader program. It's costly, so that's not something that we felt was necessary at the moment. That's something down in the future that would be great. Anywhere they're driving, it's picking up, it's analyzing, it's running all its algorithms and such. So that is a possibility, but that's software that isn't cheap.
Yeah.
So that obviously could happen.
Shows you an app.
My understanding is the software would show you which license plates were active in that section. So you would have to look by, okay, this license plate is not registered in this section and is not paying right now. It wouldn't necessarily alert you that,
Same thing. That's why we talked about getting a sticker. Get a sticker in your car. That's $30 for the year. That's hundreds of thousands of dollars of infrastructure. You want to run electrical underneath the sidewalks? Oh, come on.
I'm sorry, Chief, can you come up to the microphone so I can hear you, please? Thank you.
Part of the phone thing I can anticipate is that there's case law now that suggests that if a police officer uses their personal phone for police business, their phone is now foilable, and any personal data on it.
Mm-hmm.
So and I wouldn't disagree with them. Every person at the department's probably saying, I'm not putting that on my phone. So it'll have to be integrated with the dispatch computer, and though that's a step, in order for there to be any real-time enforcement, it would have to be integrated with the computers in the cars too.
yeah.
So that's for you guys to consider when
That's
you're
good to
talking
know,
to
yeah.
these vendors.
And
So
that
we'll
was-
only try to choose a software that's basically solely integrated into computers.
And I could talk to CNN tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
on their thoughts on how easily they'd be able to get that integrated to a car
Okay.
computer.
And that was
Okay.
one of the things we were going to do also, is talk to some of our surrounding communities that already have these apps. Which ones are they using? What do they like about it? What don't they like? What issues are they running into? How is it with enforcement? All of those questions, so that we can make an educated, good decision on which one is gonna work best for us. I mean, some of these communities, like I said, just went through this. They just went through trying to figure out which one was gonna be the best, which one was gonna work, and we've already talked to some of them, and they're happy to share information. So we were hoping that if this was approved, we'd talk to Chief, we'd get him involved. We didn't wanna take up any of his time if we weren't gonna approve it, and see what we could do next.
My experience is also that the spot that you are paying for is numbered. And you are putting in the number of that spot you're paying for. Therefore, if the police drive by and they have a screen there that says, oh, 4 out of 5 cars are parked. Oh, this one's empty, so if I drive by and there's a car in that spot, I don't need to read the license plate. I can just
Right.
take it right then and there.
Right. I mean, that's the big step. We have no choice in choosing anything
I mean,
that's not gonna work.
The vendors will probably be able to tell you exactly how that all works, but,
Right.
and what options they might be able to give the chief.
Yeah. That's the next step in discerning the proper software.
But you have to you have to give a number to each spot.
Right.
So, Mr. Clark, this doesn't require any kind of ordinance or anything on our end?
Well, depending on how far you go, you may want to amend your parking ordinance because you do have one. It sets the times for parking. I believe there are seasonal hours. You can park longer in the summer than you can in the winter because 2 to 6, they want to be able to plow the lots. And so you may want to do that. I don't think you need to do that first, but you probably will want to look at your parking ordinance and update it to dovetail with whatever your final solution is.
Right, and we talked about that in our joint committee too, is that was pretty much our next step after this, was reviewing the parking restrictions and
Right,
ordinance and
ordinance.
making sure it gels with this.
Okay.
Okay, if we are all set with discussion, could you please call the roll?
Who seconded?
I believe
Nathan?
it was you and Fowler.
Zachary?
Yeah.
Zachary? Bartholomew?
Yes.
Edwards?
Yes.
Fowler?
Yes.
Care?
Yes.
Rosso?
No.
Poznanski?
Yes.
And then, one last thing, it doesn't have to happen tonight, but the PILOP obviously goes hand in hand with this. We temporarily lowered the PILOP, searching for, another source of revenue, where we didn't know what direction we were going. Right now, the PILOP, as it's written, is just for purchasing new lots. So there's no maintenance that can be covered from the capturing of that fee. We don't collect the fee anyway as of now. So, I mean, per the DDA's recommendation and from Nathan and I's discussion, we thought just of indefinitely setting it to $100 basically is saying, we don't have any plans with this, we probably won't do anything with it in the future. If that's the case, we could set it at $1, so we choose, so as long as it's still in place and we're collecting it. I don't know what you guys thought, but we do have to address at some point in the next 2 or 3 months, setting that fee to something more permanent.
We have sold a few of those $100 spaces as soon as we changed it.
Seriously?
Yeah.
So it's a good number.
I think $1. If we're not gonna take it seriously and capture it, why take whatever? We could, so once we start reviewing the parking ordinance, we might look for an alternate source to replace that possibly. I don't know. I think we can just leave it for this month and talk about it as more of this stuff comes out, but in my mind, we're not taking it seriously anyway, so what's the arbitrary decision to charge $100? $100 is essentially nothing. We can never pay for a brand new lot with $100 a spot.
$1,000 in there before?
We had it at 10,500 or something. So I just wanted to say that we don't have to take any action on that tonight, but just food for thought.
Well, at that, it is 9:26.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
We have a motion by Cares, support by Fowler. All in favor? Any opposed? There are none opposed.